a decorated deputy, a hidden affair, and a midnight knock that would end in screams. But here's the chilling part. The killer wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a burglar or a masked intruder. He was a sworn protector, a man trusted with a badge, a gun, and the duty to serve. In September of 2022, the quiet city of Dublin, California, was rocked by one of the most shocking betrayals imaginable, when an Alameda County sheriff's deputy murdered his secret girlfriend and a husband inside their own home. How does a man sworn to uphold the law transform into an executioner in the dead of night? And could this devastating tragedy have been prevented? Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the Dublin double murder. Dublin, California, an East Bay suburb of about 65,000 residents, was the kind of place where families felt safe. Known for its schools, its community parks, and its proximity to Silicon Valley, Dublin represented the American suburban dream. But in the early hours of September 7th, 2022, that dream turned into a nightmare. Just after midnight, a frantic 911 call came in. The caller's voice was panicked, broken, desperate. Inside the Tran family home, chaos was erupting. Within minutes, dispatchers heard the chilling sounds of gunfire through the phone. And when police finally arrived, they walked into a scene of horror. Maria and Benison Tran, beloved members of their community, lying fatally wounded, their teenage son and relatives in shock after witnessing the violence firsthand. But what truly stunned investigators wasn't just the brutality of the crime. It was the identity of the killer. Not a stranger, not a hardened criminal, but one of their own, a young sheriff's deputy named Devin Williams Jr. How did a man with a badge end up pulling the trigger inside the home of a family he once claimed to love? Devin Williams Jr. was just 24 years old, a rising deputy with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, assigned to the Santa Rita jail. To outsiders, he appeared disciplined, respectful, and proud of his badge. But beneath the uniform, a storm was brewing. In early 2022, Williams began a romantic relationship with Maria Tran, a 42-year-old nurse at John George Psychiatric Hospital in San Leandro. Maria was intelligent, compassionate, and admired by colleagues. But there was one truth she never told Williams. She was still married to her husband, Benison. At first, Williams believed she was separated, maybe even divorced. But as their relationship deepened, reality came crashing down. Maria wasn't leaving her husband, and despite her assurances, she had no plan to abandon her marriage. For Devin, who had grown emotionally attached, the revelation was devastating. What began as passion turned into obsession. He texted Maria in desperation. "I'm about to explode." Maria begged him not to cause trouble, but her words weren't enough. Because, in Devin's mind, he wasn't just losing a lover, he was losing control. And then came the first warning sign, one that, if taken seriously, could have stopped everything. On August 8, 2022, just 1 month before the murders, Williams appeared unannounced at the Tran family home. He rang the doorbell repeatedly, pacing outside, refusing to leave. Inside, Maria and Benison were terrified. Finally, they did the only thing they could. They called 911. The dispatcher logged their fears. A man at their door, possibly armed, refusing to go away. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. When responding officers realized the man outside was a fellow deputy, the response was restrained. No arrest, no charges, just a warning, a chance for him to walk away. In hindsight, that moment is chilling, because just weeks later, Williams would return. Not to ring the doorbell, but to kick it open. Not to beg for attention, but to pull the trigger. The system had its chance to intervene, Instead, it hesitated, and that hesitation cost 2 innocent lives. It was just past midnight on September 7th, 2022. Williams had just completed an overtime shift. For most deputies, the end of a long day meant heading home. But for Devin, the night was far from over. That evening marked his 1-year anniversary with the sheriff's office. Instead of celebrating, he drove to Dublin, his service weapon still on him. The Tran family was asleep. Maria's mother, cousin, and teenage son were inside the house. But the front door, according to reports, wasn't locked. Williams walked right in. Suddenly, chaos. Benison dialed 911. His voice carried desperation. "Someone is in my house with a gun." The line went live. Dispatchers listened in horror as screams erupted. Then, 6 deafening gunshots. Williams shot Maria and Benison execution style, targeting their heads and necks. Their son and relatives witnessed the aftermath. Their lives changed forever in an instant. And just as quickly as he entered, Williams fled. He ditched his service weapon near Altamont Pass, speeding into the darkness. But instead of hiding, the deputy did something few expected. He called the police chief himself and arranged his own surrender. After fleeing the crime scene, Williams drove more than 150 miles south to Coalinga, California. For hours, he was a fugitive with a badge, on the run. But the next morning, he made a startling decision. Williams called Dublin Police Chief Garrett Holmes directly. His voice was calm, controlled, almost resigned. He admitted what he had done. By afternoon, he surrendered peacefully. The young deputy, who once wore his uniform with pride, was now escorted in handcuffs, headed straight to the very same Santa Rita jail where he once worked. But as prosecutors dug deeper, they uncovered disturbing truths about Williams' mental fitness and how the system had overlooked them. In October 2024, the trial began. Prosecutors described Williams' actions as deliberate, calculated, execution-style murders fueled by jealousy. They introduced evidence of threatening texts. Williams to Maria, "I'm about to explode." Maria's final plea, "Don't bother my fam." The defense tried to argue that Williams was misled, emotionally manipulated, driven to a crime of passion. But the jury wasn't convinced. Witness testimonies and forensic evidence pointed to premeditation. But beyond the trial, one revelation shocked the public even more. Williams was part of a group of 47 deputies who had failed psychological evaluations. The sheriff's office knew, yet many, including Williams, were still armed and active in duty. A chilling question surfaced. How many officers with red flags were patrolling the streets with guns and badges? And when sentencing day arrived, the judge made it clear. This wasn't just a crime of passion, it was an execution. On November 12, 2024, Judge Jennifer Madden delivered the final blow. Williams was sentenced to 50 years to life, 2 consecutive terms of 25 years for each murder. In her words, the crime was among the most brutal, execution-style murders she had ever seen. No possibility of parole until at least his 70s. The most heart-wrenching moment came from the Tran's teenage son. Standing in court, voice trembling, he said, "I can't forgive you for what you did to my parents. You took away my future, my family, my happiness. I will carry this ache for the rest of my life." The room fell silent. No sentence could undo that pain. No verdict could bring Maria and Benison back. But even with justice delivered, one haunting question remains. Could this tragedy have been prevented? The Dublin double murder is more than just a crime story. It's a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of how unchecked obsession can turn deadly, and how systemic failures in law enforcement can allow danger to slip through the cracks. Maria and Benison Tran were more than victims. Maria was a nurse dedicated to healing the vulnerable. Benison, a devoted husband and father, respected in his community. Their loss is a wound that still bleeds in Dublin, a reminder of trust betrayed. Devin Williams will likely die behind bars, but the deeper scars remain with the families, the survivors, and a community forever haunted by the night a protector turned predator. Courtroom doors finally closed. For Maria and Benison Tran's loved ones, silence settled in. A silence heavy with the weight of questions that may never be answered. How does a sworn protector become a destroyer? How does love twist into violence so final, so irreversible? In the quiet suburbs where the tragedy unfolded, neighbors still pass by the home, remembering it not for the crime scene tape that once surrounded it, but for the laughter and warmth that used to spill out of its walls. For them, the shadows of that night are a permanent reminder that safety can be shattered in an instant. As for Devin Williams Jr, and his name now lives not in the honor roll of service, but in the archives of betrayal. His fall serves as a chilling testament to the fragility of trust. The reminder that the badge, the uniform, the oath, are only as strong as the choices of the human being behind them. The Dublin double murder becomes more than just another true crime story. It becomes a cautionary tale, a story of fractured duty, of love entangled in secrecy, and of a moment of rage that left two innocent lives extinguished. In the end, justice may have been served in court, but the deeper wounds, the unanswered why, remain. And as we step away from this story, one truth lingers: the line between protector and predator is far thinner than any of us would like to believe. Subscribe the channel if you want more videos. Trust in a badge is sacred, and when it's broken, the ripple effects last for generations. The question isn't just why this happened. It's how many other warnings are we still ignoring?